Okay. I've heard your cries. I've heard your pleas. I've heard your takes after yesterday's stream about the offense and what upsets you. And I completely get it. The Fire Canada stuff, I've been there. After what? I think it was the Texans game. I was ready to move on because we know the track record. We know what 2.5 years have looked like under Canada as the OC. All the stats are out there. We're like in the bottom 3, bottom 5 in the league, and basically like every offensive statistic there is. Yesterday marked the 54th or 55th straight game in a row where we didn't put up a total of 400 yards as an offense. And there's some depth to that stat, though, that I don't think that tells the whole story. I'd rather be winning games because if you look across the league, there have been teams that have put up more 400-yard games than us, but we still do have a better record than them. Now, I'm not settling for mediocrity, though, because those records over the last 3 years aren't as good as what we're looking for as Steeler Nation. The standard is the standard, and that is deep playoff runs and championships, right? So I get the whole Fire Canada stuff. I've been there, just more based off his body of work and track record. But what I was saying yesterday is I don't think that was a Fire Canada game, if that makes sense. It is from the standpoint where this is just another game on his resume where the offense was lackluster. But why it was lackluster, I don't think was due to Canada, or at least a large majority of it wasn't due to Canada because of how the players performed in the first half. And I got to call out my guy Kenny for some of it because he missed throws. He missed Pickens on a crosser wide open across the middle of the field. That's not on Canada. He missed Diontae Johnson in the end zone, or you could say Diontae Johnson slipped in the end zone, one way or another. That's not on Matt Canada. Diontae was wide open. That should have been 7. The 3 points that got taken away due to the refs calling us for offsides on that field goal right before half, that's not on Matt Canada. Diontae Johnson dropping the wide open pass across the middle of the field that could have went for 7 the first play of the game. I don't think that was on Matt Canada. If anything, that shows that we scripted up a pretty good play to start the game. The drop in the third play of that first series by Diontae and that holding by Chooks, I can't say that's on Matt Canada. But yeah, if you want to just say, hey, the offense is lackluster again, it's been lackluster with Matt Canada as the play caller. I get it. This is just kind of like another game. And here's the problem. Here's how I'm feeling this morning. You guys let me know how you're feeling on this Monday after the loss. You're just getting numb to it, man. You're just really getting numb to it. It's like the Twilight Zone of this just continues to be how we play these games. And some of them we win. To our credit, we get dubs like that Rams game last week, like the Ravens game before that. We're sitting here 4-3, right? Winning is the name of the game, but the offense can just be frustrating. But here's why I don't think we should go full-blown negativity right now. Going back to what I said yesterday, the game was incomplete. Because even though the offense was meh in that first half, at least based off the results, only 3 points, should have been 6. You want better than that, right? You want better than that. We were still setting us up for a win. We were setting ourselves up for a win. I think if Kenny's in there, we win the game. So I get it. We want Matt Canada to be better. We want the offense to be better. We want Kenny to be better. But I truly believe that if Kenny was healthy the second half, we get out of that stadium and we're sitting at 5-2 and we beat the Jaguars. Another reason why I don't think we could be too down on ourselves is because the Jaguars are legitimately a good team, right? I think they're going to end up being one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the AFC when it all comes down to it. And we only lost by 10. And that's with the defense. And here's another reason why I was talking about just us being in the twilight zone. It's not only the offense, as like things we just continue to witness on a game in and game out basis. It's the defense giving up a ton on the ground, getting some splash plays here and there, but then also giving up some chunk plays in the passing game. Like that has been a weird, consistent thing where we are getting outgained every game. It's literally been every game this season, yet we're somehow 3-4. We have been, as a total, outscored by all our opponents. But again, we're somehow 4-3. We somehow have a winning record. So it's just this weird state because now we have Minka hurt. Kenny's up in the air. His status is uncertain for Thursday. At least it doesn't look like a long-term injury. And I think we're just asking ourselves, where do we go from here? There's a lot of uncertainty. I just really would have loved to see yesterday's game play out with the guys that were supposed to be in there in the second half, like Kenny Pickett at quarterback. Minka Fitzpatrick, obviously, that's a major blow, but the quarterback is the most important position on the field. We know that. And Kenny was just starting to heat up in the second quarter. And dare I say, even though we can complain about the offense still, we want better, we need better, things started to flip the switch in that second quarter. And that's a lot sooner than what we've been seeing from this offense in 2023. Usually it's, again, taken till, the third quarter, fourth quarter for us to wake up. So there are signs. Like there were a lot of good signs from yesterday's game, I thought. But then we just didn't get to see it in full fruition in the second half because Kenny went down and we had Mitch out there. And even with Mitch being out there, not only did we only lose to the Jaguars by 10, but we had a chance to tie the game. Offense had the ball. We're down 17-10. It was like, what was it, 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, and then Mitch just decided to be a bonehead and throw the ball up into triple coverage. If Kenny's out there, I don't think that happens. I don't. And then, after that pick, the game was pretty much over. Defense was on the field way too much. Again, I get the Fire Canada stuff based off his body of work. I just don't think yesterday was that game to where your first priority or your biggest allocation of energy is towards him. But, we'll see how things play out going forward. But I don't think yesterday was a that's on Canada game. No, but players got to play better. Injuries and also, yes, the refs didn't help either. And I'll talk a little bit about some of that. And then we'll get into some final trade deadline moves that the Steelers can make. There's one big one in particular that's popped up. And I think the Steelers could be legitimately interested in this guy. His name hasn't been floated around there predominantly, but the team that has him hasn't really been using him much. They've had him in the doghouse. And I guess if you see the thumbnail for this stream, you can guess who it is. But yeah, we'll get into that. Who's in the house right now? Kevin GZ. Yo, Deke, football is a game of 4 quarters, right? We can't keep winning by playing 6 minutes of good football. I'm with you. The offense needs to be better from the start, but that game was very much within reach. Very much within reach yesterday. The refs don't make that bad call before halftime. We're sitting there 9-6. And the offense, I felt like after the second quarter, had all the momentum in the world. And we saw what we did against the Rams. Like, I thought we would only be building off that as the season went on. So that's why it's just really frustrating is we didn't get to see that. We didn't get to see because my money's on we win that game if Kenny's in there. That's where my money is. But ultimately, we end up with a loss. Kenny gets hurt. Mitch is in there. And it's just this weird feeling of the offense started out slow, but I felt it getting better. We have a whole second half. And I would have guessed, again, I would have put my money that we would have won the game, but that dude wasn't out there. Our QB1 wasn't out there. And the offense, in a way, regressed. There was some splash plays for Mitch, but ultimately regressed. Mitch had the turnovers. was doing those checkdowns. And here's the other thing. What was he doing in the fourth quarter? Like, he throws the bad pick. He gets aggressive whenever we didn't need him to, whenever we're only down a score, a decent amount of time left. Let's just put together a good drive, tie this up. So he decides to be aggressive there, but then whenever we're down 2 scores, Mitch decides to throw checkdowns. Make that make sense. I don't know what he was doing. But yeah, ultimately, I just don't know if we can give a full assessment from yesterday's game on what this team is going forward because of the injuries, because of Kenny getting hurt. That's the thing with me. Again, if you want to say, yes, the offense needs to start out faster, I'm with you on that. But, if we go out there second half and score a couple touchdowns, win the game with Kenny, I think we're feeling like we did after we beat the Rams. Ray Clips, Mitch, terrible bottom line. Can't believe we gave him an extension. I think the extension was smart at the time, and maybe that's a take for me that hasn't held up that well. In that Mitch is, what did I say? Mitch is better than like over half the starters in the league, or maybe I said like 10 starters. That take's bad. I just got to own that one up. I got to see Mitch come in backup duty last year and backup relief, and I thought he did some good things outside of the Ravens game. The Buccaneers game, he outdueled Tom Brady in the second half, got the dub. Carolina game, it's probably the best game I've seen from Mitch in a Steeler uniform. And even the Ravens game, despite the 3 picks, I saw him chuck the ball down the field to Pickens, have some really nice plays. But we got to see that side of Mitch again in this game. And that Mitch, it's just not cool. It's not cool when you're doing that consistently. When you're consistently being inconsistent, that's not cool. And that's what it feels like Mitch is right now. Now, who knows? Maybe things could change this Thursday with him getting, I can't even say a full week of preparation, but with him knowing he's going to be the starter going into this game, maybe it'll be different. But we got to see him for 3.5 games last year as the Steelers starter, and there's a reason we moved on to Kenny. Tyler Noah's in the house. What's good, man? He says Canada called a great play to start off the game. Both Kenny and Diontae didn't execute. That should have been a huge play. I know people are trying to bring up that Kenny overthrew Diontae on that. There's no way. That was a perfect pass. Diontae's got to catch the ball. Nate Christian asks, sellers or buyers tomorrow? I will get into that in a second here. Ray Clips, never thought I would say, I hope Mason starts Thursday if Kenny can't go. Tomlin already announced in his press conference that Mitch is going to be playing. And I get it. Short week. Mitch has been considered your backup. But if he starts throwing picks out the gate, make the switch to Mason. Now, Kenny's up in the air. I do have some injury updates for us real quick. Kenny is going to be game time decision, according to Tomlin. It's just going to depend on what he's able to do, probably how much effort he could put into throws, how far he could throw the ball, how limited he is. They said there was no structural damage or anything to his wrist, so I'm guessing it's just some type of bruise and what Kenny's pain tolerance will be. Game time decision. Cam Hayward, Anthony McFarland, trending in the right direction, could be back. If I had to put my money on those two, I'd say they missed this game just because of the short week, and then they'll be back for the Packers game at home. Minka officially out. And Levi Wallace, Tomlin didn't really give any definitive answers on him. They asked, hey, what's the deal with Levi and his injury status? And he's like, I don't know. But he did confirm that JPJ is going to be the starter going forward. He has earned his starting spot, which is definitely good news. Now let's get into... So I'm going to organize it this way. I'm going to get into a couple of these trades, the one big one that we could potentially see, and then I'll close it out with some of those comments from Diontae yesterday on the refs, because Tomlin had some stuff to say in his press conference about the refs too, and then Boswell posted his Instagram story, some funny stuff. So the trades, though. The one big one that's popped up, let me go over the names, though, I've mentioned. I brought up pretty consistently over these last couple streams as to guys that we could look to for this trade deadline. And we've heard these names multiple times, not only by me, but other Steeler people. Patrick Surtain from the Broncos. Now, they won yesterday. I don't know. Are they going to be sellers? We've been hearing that they're going to be sellers at the trade deadline the last 2 or 3 weeks, but they're 3-5 coming off a win against the Chiefs. Who knows? Who knows? Russ hasn't really looked that bad this year. I think they're low-key a better team than what people are giving them credit for. I think they're closer to like 500 or maybe like a 5-3 team. I know their record's 3-5, but I don't think the Broncos are as bad as what people are making them out to be. But we have heard the rumors that they're trying to trade everyone. Everyone's up for grabs, pretty much except for Surtain. But even with him, if the offer is good enough, they could be open. But after that win, I don't know what they're going to do. Surtain, J.C. Horn, I'm talking cornerbacks here. Surtain, J.C. Horn from the Panthers. Also, Marcus Peters, although I'm kind of cool on that one the more I think of it. Another cornerback that I've been mentioning, who was it? Jalen Johnson from the Bears. Now, that one definitely could be in play with the Bears continuing to be dismal. They could be sellers at the trade deadline. Those are the main cornerbacks that we've discussed. Aaron Donald I've thrown out there. That's not happening. Israel Abanikanda, running back for the Jets. That's probably not happening. Tight ends, Mike Gesicki, Tommy Tremble. And then safeties, Jeremy Chin. He was put on IR. We know the Panthers have been misusing him this year. And then Terrell Edmonds, I brought up last week. And I'm actually going to mention him again because with this Minka injury, that could be a little bit more prevalent for the Steelers. Try to trade for a safety. And Terrell Edmonds would make a ton of sense. But the name that was brought up today, and it wasn't in a particular connection with the Steelers, but could very much make sense. I think you guys would agree with me here. And that is Buffalo Bills cornerback, Kaiir Elam. All right, let me get this out of the way real quick. My producer skills are on point today. Not going to front. They were a little sketchy yesterday, but I think we're doing a good job today. Jeremy Fowler says 2 AFC East names worth watching at the trade deadline. Bills corner, Kaiir Elam, and Patriots pass rusher, Josh Uche. Don't got to worry about the Josh Uche portion of this tweet. More focused on the Kaiir Elam because the Steelers could very much use some cornerback help, could use some secondary help. We've talked about that for the last 3 or 4 weeks. He goes on to say, both players have garnered trade interest per sources. Elam, a former first-round pick, was inactive on Thursday, while Uche is in the final year of his rookie deal. So the breakdown with Kaiir Elam, he was a first-round pick for the Bills a couple years ago. And based off my research that I've done on him, the Bills were hoping that they could take his play style, his prototype of being like a man-to-man, physical, very athletic corner, and make him more of a zone guy. But apparently, based off what Bills fans and Bills people are saying, it just hasn't worked. It just hasn't hit. Like, if you got a dude in Kaiir Elam, first-round pick, young player, very talented. If you got that dude, you shouldn't be out checking the market and signing dudes like Josh Norman, who is way over the hill. You should be expecting a guy like Kaiir Elam to take over, be that guy in his second year, possibly be your franchise cornerback. But that just hasn't been the case. You see, he was inactive on Thursday. He's been in the doghouse, it seems like, for most of this year. And what sucks, according to Bills fans, is that Elam was showing flashes last year that he could be the guy, but he has just not been able to pick up this Bills system, and it hasn't been a fit. So this report by Jeremy Fowler makes me believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And the Steelers, this is one of those moves. Elam, not proven, but I think we did have some interest in him coming out of the draft. And he is that prototype that we've been eyeing up over these, I'll just say over the last year when talking about the cornerback position. Got a JPJ, got a Corey Trice, and we just picked up Darius Rush on the practice squad. What type of players are these guys, according to Mike Tomlin? Avatars, big dudes, big speed, physical at the line of scrimmage. And that's what Kaiir Elam, coming out of Florida, was supposed to be. Didn't work out with the Bills. And this is one of those moves. You're the Steelers, low risk, high reward. If you trade for him, you don't have to play him immediately. It can almost be like how we just picked up Darius Rush. Gave him the helmet this Sunday, but ultimately he didn't get any snaps. You just kind of see how he develops within the system. If we got Kaiir Elam in here, former first-round pick, and it works out, could be big-time reward. Him, JPJ, being two young staple corners for us for the next, 4 or 5 years. If it doesn't work out, you gave up a late-round pick. Because I think that's all it would take to get Elam. 4th, 5th-round pick. Because he hasn't done what a Patrick Surtain or a J.C. Horn have done thus far in their career. And J.C. Horn's been hurt. But I don't think he's been on either of those guys' levels. So there's uncertainty with him. Unproven. 4th, 5th-round pick. Could Sean McDermott give his friend Mike Tomlin a nice little, wink, wink, friendly deal here? Because, they went to college together. They played football at William and Mary. Could we get a little deal there? Hopefully. I would be completely fine with that. If we can't get one of the top guys that I mentioned, in a Surtain or a J.C. Horn, why not fork up a late-round pick for a high-upside guy in Elam? Wouldn't hurt. And he'd be another guy that you could get under Patrick Peterson's tutelage for as long as Patrick Peterson will be here. I don't know if Pat P will be around for next year or not. But, yeah, you get a couple young guys under Pat P's tutelage. That's only going to help them in their careers going forward. We already got JPJ, Corey Trice. I don't know how much Corey Trice is even around with his injury, but also Darius Rush. Those 3 guys I already mentioned. So, yeah, this is one that, just popped up today. I know there's been some talks about the Bills potentially trading Elam just because he hasn't been playing as much as a lot of people thought he would, but seemed like Thursday could be the nail in the coffin with him being inactive. And then a couple of the other names I wanted to bring up. Give me 1 second here. I'll throw this overlay back up. I already mentioned Terrell Edmunds. We're playing the Titans this week. That's the team that he's on right now. Minka's hurt. That leaves us with Diontae Casey and Keanu Neal. Now, Casey, he's a little bit more similar to Minka Fitzpatrick, being a ball hawk. He's done more of the tackling stuff with the Steelers, just more out of necessity, getting closer to the line of scrimmage and stuff like that. But I don't think that's utilizing him to his best ability. So with Minka being out, if you got a Terrell Edmunds, who, again, I think is a little bit better at this stage in his career than a Keanu Neal, that can open up some things for Diontae Casey. And hopefully he doesn't take bad angles on passes like he did yesterday for that Etienne wheel route. But Diontae Casey can take the ball away if you get him in the right spots. Like, that is more of his strength. And a Terrell Edmunds, it'd be for all the same reasons why we would bring Terrell Edmunds in if Minka were healthy, would be why we bring him in with Minka being hurt. Edmunds, you bring him up in the box. He could be your garbage man, familiar with the system, and hopefully it would only take a late-round pick. But just the fact that we're down a safety, now it's just Diontae Casey, Keanu Neal, and then you're looking at, like, Miles Killebrew, who really doesn't play safety. He's more of a special teams ace, and he's really good at that. But as a safety, I don't know if he's the guy you want to be relying on week in and week out, especially if Minka's going to be out for potentially 3, 4, or 5 weeks with that hammy. So getting a Terrell Edmunds would not hurt at all. I don't know if the Titans, it's almost like the Broncos scenario, though. They just won yesterday. Will Levis was looking pretty good. They sit at, I believe, 3-5. 3-5 in a division. AFC South, not that good. I'm assuming the Jaguars are going to win the division, but if you could pick up wins against lesser opponents like the Colts and the Texans, and Mike Vrabel-led teams are almost like Mike Tomlin-led teams. Somehow they're going to be around 500 and in the mix for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Now they're talking about Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins not being on the trade block as much as they were last week. And that's what's crazy. A lot can change in the NFL just in the course of a couple of days. If you win and the vibes are high, the players that were previously on the trade block or you were willing to get rid of maybe aren't on the trade block as now. So I don't know what the deal is with Terrell Edmonds and the Titans. I don't know if they'd be even willing to move off him. Maybe they like him. That's why they wanted him in the Kevin Byard deal with the Eagles. But he's a name that obviously is available. I think the Steelers should be looking into it. But then the last one, and one of you guys mentioned this in the comments or asked me, are the Steelers going to be sellers or buyers at the trade deadline? This is where they could be sellers, and that would be the quarterback position. If they would want to move off of Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph, a quarterback needy team. You got the Bears starting a rookie quarterback from a D2 school yesterday. You mean to tell me Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph wouldn't at least give them a better opportunity to win? Vikings are going to be down Kirk Cousins for the rest of the season. Now, there might be other quarterbacks available that would be better than a Mitch or Mason. But if, for whatever reason, their head coach had some type of affinity toward Mitch Trubisky because Mitch used to play in the I'm reaching here. I'm not even going to lie. I'm reaching, but if the Vikings head coach had some sort of affinity for Trubisky and thought like, we could bring him back to the NFC North here, could be a good fit. Why not? Because there's other names, like I mentioned. I mean, you could maybe trade for a Jameis Winston, pick up a Carson Wentz if you're the Vikings. So it just all comes down to dealer's choice. If you are Minnesota, what quarterback out of the below average would you prefer more? And if it is, for whatever reason, Mitch Trubisky, maybe we could get a pick for him because you've already seen some of the commentary on the backup quarterback situation here in Pittsburgh. Who should it be? Because with Mitch just going out there and throwing those picks and throwing us out of the game yet again, I'm even more open to Mason being the guy if Kenny goes down than I ever have been, because I feel like at least Mason would do a better job taking care of the ball. At least he could do that. But yeah, Mitch or Mason could be other names at the trade deadline if there's a quarterback needy team out there. And there's a lot of teams that are dealing with quarterback injuries. So there's that. If we could get some type of pick, that wouldn't be the worst move, I don't think. As long as we kept one of them, as long as we kept either Mitch or Mason, why not? But those are the potential moves. I already mentioned a lot over the last couple of streams, the same names, Surtain, Horn, but these are just some new thoughts, new ideas, especially with this report with Kaiir Elam and the Bills just popping up today. Something for the Steelers to think about. Terrell Edmonds, I think that should still be on the table, especially with the Minka injury. And then, Mitch or Mason, quarterback needy team out there, team with some injuries at the quarterback position. Why not? Why not? Mike Tomlin said in his press conference, we're open for business. The offer's got to be right for us to give up Mitch or Mason, because I do think even if they are the backups, they do help Kenny out. Kenny being the young quarterback in the room, I think they help him. Give him what they're seeing out there. Give him some tips and tricks from a veteran's perspective. So the deal's still got to be worthwhile for us. We're not just giving those dudes away, but something to think about. Definitely something to think about. But just the fact that Tomlin said Mitch is going to be starting for Thursday doesn't make me think that he's really available like that. Unless the offer is just too good to be true. So what are you guys saying? We got... Dylan Self-Taka says, we need to trade piece away, not gain them. I'm sorry, but 9-8 every year just sucks. Goes back to the intro. I know you're saying 9-8, like this is just destined for 9-8. But I think we got a better chance than that. I do, especially with our easy schedule. And actually, I might touch on that real quick before I head out of here. If you look at our schedule, man, the problem is just the injuries right now. The injuries, the uncertainty. What's going on at quarterback? Kenny, Mitch. I don't want to dig ourselves in too big of a hole like we did last year, but second half of the season is there for the taking for the Steelers if we could just get our stuff together here. But yes, this does yesterday and just how things played out. It's like, is this where we're at again? I'm just numb to this. 9-8, offense looking like that. But there was some depth to how the game played out with injuries, refs, et cetera, et cetera. Going back to what I said at the beginning. Ryan McPherson, you on this vibe, dude. You hit this point. He says at this point, Mason over Mitch. Yeah. Oh, I even forgot. Yeah, Pat Frymuth is hurt too. Pat Frymuth has been out. Vibes Gemini says at least Killebrew can tackle. Yeah, he is a bigger dude. He made a tackle or two yesterday. I saw him getting after it, but yeah, he's definitely not the best in coverage. Ryan McPherson, are you talking about yesterday's game? Pat P played fine. I still have to rewatch the game. I'm gonna rewatch it before the podcast. I gotta check that out because Calvin Ridley was cooking us. They were getting some chunk yards, and I just don't remember who was around the vicinity. I saw Chandon Sullivan. I know JPJ was locked down outside of the ETN play. Levi Wallace wasn't out there. I thought James Pierre played kind of decent. Rajah Robinson, PS2 is worth a Minka type of trade. We've been hitting in the draft, but bump them picks. Yep, I'm willing to give up 2 first rounders if it means we get Patrick Surtain. I'd even throw a late round pick in there too, or whatever you would consider a late round pick. Third rounder, I think third rounder will be fine. Diesler 911 says we are losing to easy teams. You have amnesia. Fire Tomlin in Canada. Jaguars, I think, are going to be a good team. Texans, I'll give you that, but I think Texans are tougher than what we expected going into this season. I think they're a tougher out. But we shouldn't have lost like we did to the Texans. Yeah, no excuses there. No excuses. That was egregious. PSH3P. Why consider a tight end when we just drafted a huge guy who's won national championships and was a huge part of their offense? Are people talking about trading Darnell? Or no, trading for a tight end? I think trading for a tight end shouldn't be completely off the table. Yesterday was just weird with how we utilized Darnell. Tomlin said it had to do with game flow, with us being down. I don't know if I buy that. Wouldn't Darnell be a better receiving threat than Rodney Williams out there? I know he doesn't get the best of separation, but that was just strange. The only reason I think tight end, I mentioned Mike Gesicki or Tommy Tremble. The only reason I think those names could be thrown in the mix for a Steelers trade, like a trade interest, would be due to us not utilizing Darnell anymore and having to rely on Connor Hayward and Rodney Williams being significant pieces. But I don't think it's going to be like that. That's just more of a knee-jerk reaction to how we utilize Darnell going forward, because Muth is going to be back. Darnell is supposed to be a good compliment for Muth, and then you got a Connor Hayward. So I don't think tight end is the biggest of needs for us at this trade deadline. Again, something to think about, something I've thrown out there, but as time's going on, I just don't really think it's going to make the best of sense for us to do that. But all right, I think that's it for today's stream. I did have some other stuff I wanted to bring up. I mentioned the Diontae comments with the refs and whatnot. Boswell, he posted to his Instagram story. Did you guys see that screenshot of the formation before the Boswell 55-yard field goal? None of the Steelers players were past that yellow line. In fact, one of the Jaguars defenders had his helmet over the yellow line. He was in the neutral zone. So I don't know what type of explanation the refs are going to come up with for that. Cost us 3 points, and there was multiple calls that set the Jaguars up for better field position. I think gave them additional points in the first half with their drives. It's just terrible. Yeah, those penalties on Pierre, the one they wouldn't show the replay on, the holding, pass interference, I think in the first series of the game. Pierre made an excellent play on him. Didn't even hit the defender. Jumped over him, made a nice diving pass deflection play. They call pass interference. It was bad, man. Diontae wasn't wrong. I'm not gonna go like in depth into this here, because like I said, I'm gonna close this out. But Diontae wasn't wrong. The refs screwed us yesterday. They weren't the sole reason. Now Diontae made it seem like they were the sole reason that we lost. We still should have played better, but the refs didn't help. Diontae's gonna get fined for those comments too. Like he went extra on that, and I liked it. I appreciated it. He was just being straight up, man. He was being very straight up. He said, "I hope the refs got paid well for this one. They wanted the Jaguars to win." Ooh, ooh. He's gonna get fined. He's gonna get fined. I like that he wore his heart on his sleeve. I love the passion. We normally don't see that from Diontae. He's more of an even keel type of guy, but he put it all out there. Now I don't know if the messenger being Diontae Johnson was the best, but I still appreciate it. And what I mean by that is Diontae did have a couple of drops yesterday that attributed to us being not as good of a team as what we could have been. But yeah, the refs clearly didn't help. Clearly didn't help. That was egregious. But all right, I'm out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed today's edition of Deke Talking Steelers Football here at Bleacher Report. I will be back on Wednesday. So we'll see if the Steelers make any trades. If there's any additional news on Kenny Pickett, Minka, because I think he goes for an MIR, and that's going to determine the length of his injury. Any trades, injury updates, maybe a little Steelers Titans preview. Who knows? But stay tuned. I'll be back Wednesday. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling and peace out.